Yes.
Hey guys, welcome to Notorious Women podcast. I'm Lavetta.
I'm Miriam.
And this is Notorious Women, a comedy podcast about some of history's most notorious women. And I'm sorry I interrupted you, Miriam. You're going to tell me the story about Sal, your husband.
Okay. So here's what he did. So he gets a job. It's a very lovely job. He likes the people. He likes the work. It's all good. There is a program within the company called, I shouldn't say the name of it, but it's because, but it's a company.
Don't say the name.
For African-American women to get, to unite, to support, to continue education, to, in the workplace. And he was like, I would like to join as support. I am a white man. And he was like, I'm just here. I want you to have as many numbers as you can have. And I'm like, he knows what to do. He knows his place. He knows to sit in the back row and just listen. So then he's in it for a while, probably almost a year. And they're looking for presenters, at some point. And he was like, oh, actually, I know how to present. What is, it's a specialty that my husband has and I can't remember what it is, but he's very talented. Just don't know how. Anyways, he can teach how to give, instruction, how to make a presentation, how to do that kind of thing. So he's like, I would be happy to present a whole program for you to, learn from continued education. I'll do it. No problem.
Right.
So he does it and he gets a lot of very good feedback. Some people are like, I already knew that. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's really interesting. And I can say that he's helped me with presentations before. And I think that I'm an actress. So I know how to do it, but it is a whole different ballgame. Anyways, so he does it, gets good feedback. And then they came to him and said, hey, can you co-chair the program?
Of course they did, because nothing says like diversity, inclusion, outreach like a white cisgendered man.
And I was like, what are you going to do? And he was like, I don't know.
He has to, you know what he can do? This is what he can do.
What do you think?
He can go back to them and say, I'm very flattered, but it's inappropriate for a guy like me to be on this board. You should look for a Black woman since it is for Black women. I'm flattered.
Yeah, no, because he wants to help. He wants to make sure that the program stays strong and does well. Yes. But he's like, he's like, look at me.
Yeah, I don't do it, lady. Don't do it. I mean, don't do it, man.
I was like, he's a man. That's the problem, actually.
Oh, I know. Miriam's like, he is all man.
That's my man. Okay.
Strengths. I just, that little sketch from In Living Color. Men on film, and they're like strengths, like in breastises. Yeah.
Girl, if anyone wants to get dirt on me, they can go back to the 90s when we recorded our version of In Living Color. And do you remember the sketch? Go on, girl.
No, you did not.
Yeah, I did though. I did. No. So yes, you're right. I did that, but I was wrong.
Listen, we've all done stuff that we look back and we cringe. The important thing is that you look back and you're like, oh yeah, that was all kinds of wrong.
Well, what's so funny is that if you look at there was 6 or 7 of us that were like, we have the best idea. It was for a project in school, and it was a diverse group of friends. So we were just messing up everywhere.
Oh, how old were you?
I was, how old? 14, freshman year of high school. Yeah.
You're a baby. So,
yeah.
Well, Miriam, I will tell you, I forgive you because I have a similarly cringy thing in my past. I have several cringy bones in my past that I will not divulge right now.
Oh, come on. I just told you everything. I didn't tell you everything, probably.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. I got to do it.
What? Wouldn't be prudent. Is that your Ross Perot? Are we that old? Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Well, I guess we should get started.
If you're Gen Z, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Yeah, Nothing to look up.
Look it up on YouTube.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
this week you are first, my dear. So who's your notorious woman this week that you want to share with me?
Okay. So here's the thing with the woman that I'm going to talk about today. She is still out there doing her thing. So I'm going to I just want to bring her up. What's funny is that my husband is the one who was like, do you know about her? You should do her. And I was like, since a white man told me to do that, I was like, really good idea.
Not
Thank
a white
you.
man told you to do it. That is hilarious.
It's a problematic day in my household. Okay. So have you heard of, you know what? I meant to look up exactly how to pronounce her name. I think it's Cerise.
Okay.
Cerise Castle. Cerise Castle.
No, that's a great name, CC.
CC, right? She was raised in Southern California. And, she had a childhood. Let's move on. In 2014, she moved to Los Angeles after college to become a freelance reporter. I'm skipping her childhood because I don't really have a lot of access to her childhood. She's still young and out there and doing things.
Gotcha.
She happens to be a lesbian. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know why. I think
it's important.
I think it's important.
Representation is important. Yeah. Our queer sisters, our lesbian sisters.
I think, yeah, exactly. So she worked as an associate producer for Vice News Tonight. So in 2020, so I'm skipping a whole lot of stuff here. She was hired as a producer at KCRW.
Oh, I know the name
While
of
she
that.
was
KCRW. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's like an LA thing. Words. I don't have them. Do you know my child started saying the same thing when she's like trying to think of something to say? She's like, words. I don't know, Mom. And I was like, wow.
They pick up.
I might say that a lot.
They pick up everything.
I know.
But go ahead, darling.
I get called out all day. So while reporting a Los Angeles George Floyd protest in May 2020, she was shot by a rubber bullet by LAPD.
Oh, no. Ooh.
You know what's crazy to me? It's crazy that I just found this out.
Yeah, rubber bullets apparently are like, when you see them, they're like, it sounds harmless, but then when you see them, they're huge. No. Like they're used to cause like severe damage.
Yeah, they very much can. And she was off her feet. While she was rehabilitating for 6 months. So let's stop pretending rubber bullets don't do anything. She started to investigate the history of deputy gangs in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Ruh-roh.
So she then accepted a buyout to leave her position at KCRW in February 2021. In a statement posted to Twitter and an interview on LA Podcast, she stated she had experienced racist microaggressions during her time as an employee. I'm just going to use the word alleged.
Yeah, you want to do that.
Because it's my favorite word.
And they have deep pockets, and we can't afford to be sued.
We can't afford, right.
No,
so all I said was that she put that in a statement and posted it to Twitter. So March 2021, she published her LACSD, which gangs series. So the name of that series is called A Tradition of Violence, The History of Deputy Gangs in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department in Knock, LA. Her reporting stated that multiple gangs are active in the department and alleged that gang members have killed 19 men of color around Los Angeles. It said that 1 month after the series was published, she was detained at an LACSD press conference while reporting the event. I think they let her go after that, but that doesn't feel cool.
I'm sorry. I might be a little, but what does CSD stand for?
So Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but I had to pause and think. So a year after the publication, the city's Civilian Oversight Board launched an investigation into the deputy gangs. In 2022, she received the American Journalism Online Award for Best Use of Public Records and the International Women in Media Foundation Courage Journalism Award for the series.
Wow.
She has freelanced for the Daily Beast, the Los Angeles Times, LA Magazine, and she's on multiple podcasts. She, I think, runs, up to 2 or 3 podcasts. Her freelance reporting broke the story of the Citizen app's misidentification of an arson suspect. Her reporting has been cited by Newsweek, LA Weekly, and The Ringer. And in late February 2023, so this is a very recent story, she announced that she signed with CAA, which is...
Oh, fancy.
Yeah.
Oh, CAA.
But like what she's doing with her, I'd say, newly found clout is incredible. You can still go to her website and she still posts, does anyone know anything about this situationing? I just said situationing.
Now,
it's fine.
It's okay. I mean, Biggie came up with conversate. It's not a word. It's converse, Biggie, but it's all right.
Biggie and I are basically the same thing.
So exactly. You're basically the same as a rapper from the 90s from Brooklyn of Jamaican American descent. Yeah.
That's absolutely what I said, Lavetta. What's the problem?
So just to back up a little bit. So her investigation, this was about like gangs within the police department?
Police department.
Okay. That's what Training Day was based on, right?
I do know that.
Okay. So basically it's a gang of police officers, allegedly, who are roaming the streets in the under the guise of law and order, and just attacking and brutalizing citizens, allegedly. So that's what you're talking about? Okay.
That is what I am allegedly talking about.
Okay.
Well, it's so funny because this white girl right here, me, saw Training Day and was like, great, we've exposed them. The problem is solved. So, it turns out, Lavetta, I know this is shocking to you, that it was not solved.
No, the problem is that Denzel Washington is so mesmerizing and charismatic, even though he's a terrible human being in that movie, that it kind of glorifies. You're like, yo, I want to be like him. Like, he's just a terrible, terrible human being. So
it's like, so I don't want to say I would sleep with a bad cop, but in this case,
it's Denzel in his prime. And like, but the character's such a bad guy that even Denzel's like, well, yeah, he's got to die, obviously, because he's a terrible human being. So, yeah. But that's actually based on, that character is actually based on a real guy.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. So, but go ahead, darling. I'm sorry.
So I thought the problem was solved. I was wrong. Okay. So she has earned a ton of awards for the podcast called A Tradition of Violence about deputy gangs inside the LA County Sheriff's Department. So her LA deputy gang expose that included extensive use of court documents won the 2023 American Mosaic Journalism Prize for Excellence in Long-Form Journalism, which was the largest dollar prize given annually for journalism in the U.S., after getting her Courage in Journalism Award and the American Journalism Online Award that I had already mentioned. I'm going to give a quote. So the American Mosaic Journalism Prize, the foundation was Heising Simons, and they say about her, Cerise Castle's investigative journalism tenaciously unmasks extremism in our institutions. They include a series of reports revealing a history of deputy gangs in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, which has led to legal action. This is high stakes and revelatory work reported with grit and bravery. So,
wow,
she also has produced...
That's high praise indeed. Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, she's changing the world. But for the better. Sometimes people change the world for the worst. I like to find the better.
Yeah, we won't even go down that route. That's a whole
fair.
thing.
I'm not crying. You're crying. What?
I am
All
weeping inside.
Yeah. Aren't we all? Okay. Why am I laughing? I don't know. It makes the pain bearable. What? Everything's fine. Okay. So she produced the podcast series. She produced podcast series for Audible, iHeartMedia, and Wondery, and has made appearances on podcasts that including Pod Damn America, Sorry to Podcast This, Bad with Money, Ethnically Ambiguous, and Yo, Is This Racist? I just love the name of that last podcast. That's hilarious.
And the answer is always yes. Yes,
it is. It's definitely yes. 100%. If you had to go all the way into asking the question, my God.
Exactly.
It's aggressively racist. Okay. And in her free time, she says she loves hiking and she loves stargazing. That is her. But also I want to mention, you can look up the article she wrote for Knock LA. Like, just Google her name and it's going to show up, but you could also Google Knock LA. Knock LA is a great resource, by the way, for voting stuff. And I'm throwing that out there. It's gotten me through many confusing elections. And I don't mean like, I know I voted for Biden, calm down. But I mean like the local elections that like are more precarious. You can't really tell. Knock LA is really good for that. But if you go to that, you can read her series of articles and it's very well, it's easily readable. If that's what you know what I mean? It reads like a book.
Yeah, that's good.
Like it's interesting.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Like it's user friendly. It's reader friendly.
That's the word.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Because I think sometimes when things are broken down, it can get a little heady, and this does not. So I'm not even knocking things that get a little heady. I'm just saying that it's like interesting.
I know what you're saying. Like, that's probably why it won so many, like her work has won so many awards and has been so lauded, because it's easy that's a skill to be able to distill complex ideas and thoughts down to like something that we can easily digest and like comprehend.
Yes. So that is her, Cerise Castle.
Castle or Cathel? Castle.
Like the show with Nathan Fillion. Castle.
Which I loved when it was on. Am I an old lady? I think I'm a middle-aged, no, not even middle-aged. I think I'm like an elderly, that
girl.
Show. Mm-mm. Castle was such a good like network show though. Like it knew what it was and it was so much fun. Anyway.
I agree. 100,000%. I watched every episode. Okay, let's move on.
I loved it. Well, thank you so much for that, Cerise Castle. I love that. Well, my notorious woman this week is a woman that was named, she had the moniker in the 1930s as the Black Garbo.
The Black Garbo. Okay.
Yeah, the Black Greta Garbo.
Yes.
She was an actress, obviously.
Okay.
Like Greta Garbo in the 1930s. And so my notorious woman this week is Nina Mae McKinney. Have you ever heard of her?
I don't think so.
Okay, so you're going to be in for a treat then. So
okay, I'm excited.
Yeah, Nina Mae. That's such a like Southern, like just that Mae. Nina Mae McKinney was born Nanny Mae McKinney to Hal and Georgia Crawford McKinney on June 12th, 1912 in Lancaster, South Carolina.
Okay.
Now, Lancaster was a small town near the North Carolina border. So she's a Southern girl. That's that Nina Mae, as you can tell. Now, Nina's parents were like a lot of Black people, or a lot of people in general, but especially Black people in the South. They were struggling,
Yeah.
The end of the Civil War brought freedom, but after the end of Reconstruction, basically at the late 1890s, a lot of Black people were forced to live under Jim Crow, which became the
Yeah.
law of the land, basically. Because basically,
Yeah.
the Yankees skedaddled back up north
Mm-hmm.
and left them vulnerable to pissed off white people who were mad
To
that they
Jim,
lost their free labor.
yeah,
So,
to Jim Crow laws, which is
so
why we fight so hard now because we can see how we can progress and then all that progress can go away. And we don't want that.
no, we
No,
don't
thank
want
you.
that. We want to keep it going, right? So,
Exactly.
I say all that to say that it's always hard for Black people, particularly if they weren't educated. They're just regular folk to make a living. So that's why the Great Migration, which a lot of you
Mm-hmm.
have vaguely heard of, that's mostly Black people leaving the South. And
It's the paragraph in your US history book, if you don't live in Florida, that says the Great Migration, and then there's a paragraph about that. But then you move on. Yeah.
Exactly. So it went in waves, so you guys will know. And this was one of the waves that her parents went to. They moved to New York City, basically, in
Oh, wow.
search of bigger opportunities. This is actually a very common thing with
Yes.
actors and a lot of
Yes.
people and entertainers. So they moved to New York City because they found new jobs that paid more, and the whole conceit is that you, like what immigrants do, you make money and then you send it back home.
Yeah.
So, but they left Nina Mae. They talked about they left her behind, not because they abandoned her or that they didn't want her there, but they just thought that they could work without having to look after a child.
Oh,
But
wow.
with every intention of bringing her,
Okay.
eventually to
Yeah.
come and join them.
It's not the
Um,
most uncommon story in history.
exactly, because
Yeah.
kids, if you do it right, takes a lot of time and effort,
And if you
and not
have,
all
yeah,
parents are equipped to do that. So
right. And if you have family who'd be there, be able to be there for the kid, the kid is better off there for a time. That makes sense.
exactly. So they left her with a great aunt. So this is a slightly older woman by the name of Carrie Sanders.
Okay.
Now, Carrie, basically, like a lot of Black people, worked. She basically probably worked for the family or the actual. No, probably the family of the slave owners who probably owned her ancestors
Mm,
on their once plantation, but still
mm,
basically de
a
facto
plantation.
plantation.
Mm-hmm.
But she worked there. She as a housekeeper and a cook for this family. But by all accounts, these were, quote, good white folk. So they were relatively kind, not cruel.
Okay.
Um,
I guess you get credit
and
for not being cruel. Cool. Okay.
exactly, it's bare
Yep.
minimum. But hey,
Yep.
it's nonetheless. So they, so Carrie took care of Nina Mae, and Nina basically, she was kind of like the family, she was a young kid and they liked how spunky she was. She ran errands for her
Okay.
aunt, and she, actually, once the lady of the house realized that she was like, she was a good kid, so they bought her a bike.
Nice.
And yeah, and she took to that bike like fish and water. Like,
Aw.
apparently she started performing stunts on the bike,
Oh, God.
like so much so that like the neighbors and the town folk around like were impressed, and so they would be like, show us what you got, show us what you got. So she'd do little stunts on the bike. And because of this, like the love and the attention she got from that sparked her acting bug.
So let me just say that as a parent, that just triggers me. And I hope
Right.
she was safe and took care
Yeah.
of herself. Be careful. Okay. Thank you.
I mean, this is a country girl, so she probably like, she's a tomboy probably,
Yeah.
like, and also I will say, as a Southerner myself, a lot of times, especially in these especially back then, I would imagine like 1924 we're in now, the people, like the roads are very clear. There's a lot of traffic.
Okay.
So she has a
Okay.
lot of space.
Thank
to do
you.
these stunts and stuff.
Thank you. I needed to know that. Thank you.
Yeah. So she took to it, and because of the attention that she got from doing these bike stunts, she got the acting bug, and she started doing every play in school that she could in Lancaster. And she even taught herself how to dance. She really decided that she was going to become an actor. She was going to become professional. So she so when she turned 15, her folks actually sent for her. So around this time, her folks, they probably got on their feet a little bit, had a little money saved up. And also she's older, so they can leave her in the house.
Yeah.
They don't have to watch her every move,
Right.
So she went to New York City and reunited with her parents, which is great.
That must have been such a culture shock.
Oh, I can attest to that as someone from the South who moved to New York City. It was like, and that's not in 1920, 27. So, it was, I bet it was a culture shock, but probably very exciting. Because again, this is the Harlem Renaissance.
Yes.
It's the Harlem Renaissance. So she enrolled in a school in New York City. And again, the move was good for her because New York, this high school had a better theater program.
Okay.
So she was getting better attention, better education, especially in what she wanted to do. Now, by all accounts, she was extremely driven, and she was just like, I want to perform. So she performed in every play again in this new school. But she's like, I'm headed to Broadway, bitches. This is what I'm going to end up. And she did.
She's living my dreams out loud. I love it.
Yeah, in 1928, she was in probably one of the most successful all Black performances, even till today, musicals called Blackbirds in 1928.
I've 100% heard of it. And I think I performed a song from it once. Don't judge me, or judge me. That's fine too. Because I needed a song from the 20s that was in my range, and it worked. It did not work. Like when I sang it, it didn't work. I just want you to know that.
But I am going to forgive you because you were a child. I hope you were a child.
Yeah. No,
right?
I was a child.
Okay. I'm just saying.
I mean,
not
what
if
happened?
Like 25.
No, what happened was I sang it. It was for a class. It wasn't on stage. And it was hilarious. The problem was that it's not a funny song, but when I did it, it was hilarious. So I stopped doing it. Sometimes you learn.
You're such a ham. That's what we call a ham, ladies and gentlemen. Because I'm one too. That's why I can call it when I see it. Now, for those of you who don't know, so Blackbirds was like a huge hit. It was, she originally obviously wanted one of the leads, but, and I believe the original lead had to leave. So she tried to kind of like maneuver her way into that spot, but she was up against Addie Hall, which was Addie Hall. We might cover her one day. She was a huge star, immensely talented and immensely beautiful. So a 17, 18-year-old can't really compete with Addie Hall at this time. So the show starred Addie Hall along with Bill Bojangles Robinson.
Oh, hey.
So look him up. He, to this day, he does he's known as the tap dancing guy. And also he's known with the Shirley Temple movies. Yes. That's what white people know him as. But no, even before like the Shirley Temple movies, Bill Bojangles Robinson was an amazing performer and tap dancer. He does this thing where he does, I know this is a podcast about women, but you have to look this up to believe it. He does this thing on like these stairs, like these floating stairs where he goes up and goes down. He's tap dancing. It is amazing. And no one's been able to actually replicate his performance.
I know exactly. Like you can look it up. It's on YouTube.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's one of those videos that you watch and then you watch it again.
Because you're like, there's no way he did this, but yes, he did. So it starred those two as the two main leads, but she was in the chorus line. And again, chorus line on a hit Broadway show is huge.
I would accept that. I will take the role. Yes, it's not a problem. I can move to New York City. I'm on my way. It's fine.
Now, the musical opened at the Liberty Theater on May 9th, 1928, and she was in the original cast again, and this was a
Oh,
huge production. It became one of the longest running and most successful shows of the genre on Broadway, even till this day.
excellent.
So she was in the chorus, and she's trying to meet people, do her thing, hustle, and it was here that this producer by the name of King Vidor, I just love that his name is King
What?
Vidor.
It's not his name. He made that shit up. I don't believe
Of
it.
course, he made it up. He was
My name's
looking.
Queen, by the way. I forgot to mention.
I mean, people do it all the time nowadays. But
Yes,
yeah,
it's true.
even back then. So he was actually in the midst of casting an all-black production of a film called Hallelujah.
Oh yeah.
And he had been looking for his lead. He had interviewed people, auditioned people. He just couldn't find his lead. And he saw her in the chorus. And he thought she was the most beautiful woman. And he introduced himself and he met with her. And he just thought, yeah, she has star appeal. She has this, like, again, she had that doughy look. She had that look that was very on brand with the 1920s. A lot of people also called her the Black Garbo. So if you look up Garbo, she had like those big eyes and like that very ingenue kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, so he was looking for a lead for his Hollywood film called the all colored feature called Hallelujah. So after talking with her, he cast her in the lead.
Nice.
Yeah. So basically she had like a Hollywood, like discovery story, like what people dream of, right?
Yeah, she did.
She had this, the right time, right place. She had the look, she had the talent. And the film came out in 1929, the following year. And the Daily News in New York City hailed her as, quote, an honest to goodness screen star, the first colored girl to attain this distinction, end quote. So again, they started calling her the Black Garbo. This was
get
like,
it, girl.
This is what you dream about when you're like, holding your brush or your comb, or nowadays kids do it on YouTube in your room. Like
it's Lavetta, it's the TikTok. That's what the children are doing. The TikTok.
It's the TikTok. But again, she was born Nina Mae, or Mamie, Mayme. But around this time, she's a star now. She has that star, that inevitable stardom that's on the horizon. So newspapers started calling her Nina Mae.
Oh, so just be out of nothing? They just started doing it? Okay.
And it could be that she shortened it. It could be Vidor himself shortened it. It could be, it's all about PR.
Oh, 100%.
Now, after this and after the buzz, there was a lot of buzz around before the movie came out and then certainly afterwards. And because of this, her life literally changed overnight. People started treating her like a star, and including Vidor himself. And he basically bankrolled her upgraded lifestyle. He's like, you're a star. You need to start living in this kind of place. You need to wear these kinds of clothes. He's kind of like a Svengali. Like, I didn't hear any reports of an affair, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
Because he actually I don't know if he was that handsome. There's a picture of him you can find. He was actually quite a handsome man, actually.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he was still that young and handsome when they met, but and again, I don't know his marital status, but because this is about her. But yeah, so he basically upgraded her. And so the film came out. It was a huge success, not on par with, other mostly white productions, but certainly within the Black community, it was a huge hit. And so much so that Hollywood did take notice of her.
Okay.
And MGM actually gave her a 5-year contract.
Wow.
Which was a big deal.
Yes.
And they put her on contract. So she moved out to LA and Hollywood, and she kind of started acting like it too. And then people like, she got invited to parties by like Betty Davis, other big stars. And, they're all treating her like she was the next big thing, which she was.
Right.
But because racism.
Yeah.
The leading roles just didn't come to fruition like they did for, a Greta Garbo or, the other white actresses. It's just bad timing. And so she, after about 3 or 4 years with nothing really like popping again. You know, she still got invited to parties. Also because it's sort of like, oh, we want to be friends as like, we want to be seen as like the progressive people who are not
Yeah.
bigots.
Yeah.
But you also, the biggest thing in Hollywood you need is buzz, and you actually need a hit after a while. So
she was in films. She just nothing hit.
You know, she not in another studio film, because remember, this is the day of the studio. She did like shorts, because again, this is the 20s and 30s, so shorts were still a big thing. She did a few of those, but nothing like Hallelujah, where it's like a full-on production feature-length film. Okay, nothing like that.
All
she
these
didn't have
stars that are like wanting to like be like, look at me, progressive. Why don't you go to your director and suggest her?
Well,
why don't you
it's also
use your clout?
I'm sure they did, but it's like the Hays codes prevented black and white people from kissing online on screen. Like, so there's all of that stuff. And she was adamant about not playing a maid or putting on like a scarf, like the mammy scarf that we all recognize, because she's a star. Again, she's like Clara Bow. She's like Greta Garbo. She's like a leading lady.
Oh, I don't blame her
very
at all.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so she was waiting, she was holding out for the right role, but it just never appeared like the one in Hallelujah, because they weren't making a lot of these all black studio films.
No,
they weren't making a lot of them. Like,
not nearly enough.
The race films were always, and race films were basically films made by and for black people, usually. And some not made by black people, but for black people. But they didn't have the budgets that the studio. So a lot of times, basically, they're independent films,
right?
But she was looking forward to go to the next level, because she was in the studio film as a lead, and you're waiting for that next opportunity. So there just wasn't the opportunity, the roles, and then she didn't do herself any favors, because she started to buy her own hype, apparently. So she started like. She really believed her own hype that she was a star. So she started behaving that way in her attitude. And like, she was also very young. Again, 1920. So
I was going to say wait, 1920, 1928.
No, she's 19 or 20.
Oh, I was like, wait, no, she's not 8 years old. Yes. Yeah. Listen, I probably would have done the same thing if I got catapulted to fame like a little too soon, But here I am, very, very humble. Okay.
Exactly. And so she was eventually humbled. She was in, a series of, she was in about 24 films and shorts over 2 decades. One of the most acclaimed performances that she did was she played an undercover agent posing as a cabaret singer in a film called Gang Smashers from 1938. It was the best of her 3 race films. And another one was called The Devil's Daughter in 1939, a drama set in Jamaica. And then another one was called Danger Street in 1947. And then Pie Blackbird, which was not considered the big, a top tier, but it was very popular. Pie Blackbird from 1932.
Okay.
And so she really was kind of just waiting for like the opportunities, like you said, like for the studio to take a chance for them.
Yeah.
But again, she's a star, but they can't put her in star vehicles because they star white people, and they're certainly not going to be doing mysteries and with all black cast and studio films. They're not going to put.
Why would they do that?
Why would they do that? So. She turned in solid performances, and she had the it factor. Everyone said so, but she struggled to get a foothold in Hollywood in a major way. And so it's actually one reviewer, a man by the name of Richard Watts of the New York Herald Tribune, wrote about her, quote, "Her exile from the cinema is a result entirely of narrow and intolerant racial matters," end quote.
I mean, that says it right there.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Despite her best efforts, she's like right there. So, but she got frustrated. So she went to Europe to find more opportunities there. I mean, it worked for Josephine Baker.
I was going to say, right.
So she went to Europe, and she actually did find success initially there, because it was at this point that the the places in the UK were a lot more open, particularly on the stage, because they were writing roles for Black people, but they didn't really actually have Black people with star power and of a certain status to play them. Paul Robeson was always over there. I love Paul. He's my boyfriend in my head. And so he needed someone to star opposite him. So enter Nina Mae McKinney, and she starred in several plays. She did a 3-month, because the European press had remembered her from the publicity tour for Hallelujah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back in 1930. So by the time she got there, and they're like, Paul Robeson's here, Josephine Baker. We love the African Americans.
So they were make us money instead.
Excited.
That's fine.
They were very excited to have her.
Yeah. This was the 50s?
No, this is the 1930s still.
Wait, when did she went over to Europe in the 30s?
In the 30s.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So this is the heyday. So this is like her, because Hallelujah was in 29. And so she stuck around Hollywood looking for another Hallelujah, and it wasn't coming. So she's like, let me try Europe.
You mentioned other movies that were like the 39.
Oh, yeah. 47. That was just kind of like an overview of.
I gotcha. Okay. I'm with you now.
Because a woman like this should have like 50 major movie credits. She should have like Greta Garbo credits. But but in the 30s, before she had to come back stateside, she went over to Europe and she starred in a film called Sanders of the River from 1935, again, opposite Paul Robeson. And the thing about that is that she thought, I'm a Hollywood star, I'm glamorous, and she thought she's going to get her hair and makeup done. Again, she's like, oh, I'm this, this Clara Bow type. But it's basically, she played an African chief's wife. So she's not in these glamorous jewels and when we think of those of the I'm trying to think of like the Great Gatsby, like the glamour. That's what she's thinking, and that's the life she's been living, and especially in her head, but and also in reality. But some roles you have to ugly yourself up, and not that she was ugly by any means, because they still want their leading ladies to be beautiful, but it wasn't the kind of role. It was a meaty role, and again, it's opposite Paul Robeson, who allegedly she had an affair with.
I was going to ask.
An ongoing affair.
Okay.
Have you seen a young Paul Robeson?
Yes, I have.
I get it. It's wrong, but I get it.
Not mad at him. Not mad at him at all. Nope.
So she was popular at first, but her attitude also, by all accounts. And again, I'm always kind of hesitant about saying attitude when it comes to Black women, because sometimes what Black women are asking for, like if they ask for normal things, people are like, she has an attitude. But
well, I would say this, like, what if her attitude was the same attitude of the other white women who were in that same place? Because Greta Garbo was not known for being sweet and kind, and she wasn't mean, but she definitely had requirements.
Yeah, and the difference is that they have the opportunities that will then get people to be like, oh, she's a star. Okay, so this is not diva behavior. So, but also like the affair with Paul Robeson, because apparently the producer found out about it and he was like, oh, no, because she was kind of like open about it. She wasn't even like discreet.
No, girl, you got to be discreet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but she does have the distinction of being the first African-American entertainer on British television as part of a BBC experimental broadcast in the 1930s. So,
oh, really? What was it?
It didn't say. I couldn't find the exact name of it, but again, they were like gaga over African Americans. They were just like, is everybody? Because I guess they thought all African Americans were as talented as Paul Robeson and Adelaide, like Adelaide. But
and you're like, no. Yes, they are totally true. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's totally true. Like they thought the Adelaide Hall, they thought everybody was like equal. No, these people were extremely talented. So she also did club dates, because back then people did cabaret reviews to make money in between, where she sang Stormy Weather, It Don't Mean a Thing. And so things were going pretty good in Europe. Some say that she kind of like she kind of like ruined it for herself with the whole like debacle with the Paul Robeson project, and sort of her interpersonal relationships with that. So she, a lot of times leading ladies like Addie Hall would, they would go on to, because they were so popular and beloved, they would make movies, but then mostly they would make monies from personal like singing appearances. Like, but Addie Hall was
Yeah,
like, again, she
yeah.
had an extraordinary voice. So they would like sell out, and Paul Robeson, they would sell out like music halls. So they
I
would do
mean,
tours.
I've heard Paul Robeson's voice. It's incredible.
Yeah. So I don't think she had that kind of range, but she did pretty well. She made a living for a while. But eventually, she really wanted to be in movies because she's just like, I have
Right.
it all. Like, I want to be in movies. So she made her way back stateside, and she just bid her time again. And then eventually she did play a maid in a movie that she didn't want
Ooh.
to play in. And, she also was in a movie, her one of her last appearances was in a movie called Pinky. And what happened is just so interesting. So she came back, she was very frustrated, and then she heard about Lena Horne, who
Okay.
broke out in Stormy Weather
Yeah.
and Cabin in the Sky in the early 40s. So she's thinking, okay, finally, there's more than one of me.
Right.
So, but Lena also struggled with the same issue.
Yeah.
That, Lena was lighter skin. Nina wasn't dark, but Lena was even lighter. And so oftentimes they could kind of they could say Lena was like Latino or like Latina or like,
Oh
some
my God.
exotic kind of woman. And so she could be in a musical number in an exotic location with the white, so
Right.
a
Put a
lot of
banana
times.
on her head and pretend.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So she so Lena Horne had the same issue basically because this was still the 40s.
Yeah.
And she also, when you look up Lena Horne's filmography, it's not nearly as long as it should be, given
Yeah.
that.
It's
But
true.
Lena had the distinction of being in two highly publicized and highly pushed studio films, Cabin in the Sky and Stormy Weather with Bilbo Jangles Robinson.
And I've heard. Tell me, do you know this? That they actually cut her scene where she sings "Stormy Weather." Am I making this up?
No, she sings it.
She
Like,
does
there's
sing
different
it.
versions of it where it's longer,
Oh,
and
okay.
there's, and
Maybe that's what I read.
yeah, it's like, but it
Because
was
it's the
but
best part of the movie, is my
and
humble
also
opinion.
both of the films are all Black productions. Again, they're studio films and they have a high budget. And that's where, for people who don't know, Stormy Weather is the film where the Nicholas brothers do that famous
Mm-hmm.
dance where it's like unbelievable, and
It's
they did it
unbelievable. Yes.
apparently they did it in one take. So
Of course they
uh,
did.
even yeah, like
Oh,
it's
God.
like, so Stormy Weather. So again, like Lena ran into the same problem. So Nina Mae McKinney realized that it probably wasn't going to happen. So by some accounts, people said that she began to sort of like lose her focus and being frustrated. So, she often had, allegedly, she was like kept woman for different men, wealthy men in Hollywood, hoping probably that would lead to it. I mean,
Mm,
get it, girl.
yeah, right.
But she also eventually, now again, Black Hollywood, she was their it girl. She was in like, Hugh Magazine, Ebony, like all of that stuff. But again, the actual concrete movie roles just were not appearing like they should be.
Right.
And then like with Lena Horne, what she eventually had to do was to go to the cabaret route as well, because she's like, I got to feed my kids.
Right. Yeah.
So Nina didn't, I think she did that too late. She waited too long to kind of do that, because
Oh,
so she disappeared for a little bit and then she reemerged after Lena Horne got some press.
okay.
But then she got frustrated again. So she kind of like disappeared a little bit. And she actually started dating a man by the name of Jimmy Monroe, a
Okay.
jazz musician who later famously married Billie Holiday. And he apparently was cheating on Nina with Billie.
Oh my God.
And
Y'all, zip up your
yeah,
pants. All right.
so it got kind of like messy.
Yeah.
And when they were together, people allegedly she began using drugs, it was reported. So she sort of began that slow descent in her career, but also the frustration of it. So I feel like part of it, for me, what makes her notorious is that she didn't really understand what she had. So she kind of like she kind of sat there, and probably I do believe that she started to smell her own self. I do believe that. I totally believe, because somebody's so young and it seemingly came so easy. She was in one Broadway show.
Yeah.
And then a producer saw her and literally whisked her off to Hollywood.
You know, that is hard to come down from. He whisks her off to Hollywood, and then she's a massive success. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, but our country was not ready.
They were not ready. She basically was always chasing that high and that first appearance, but it happened easy come, easy go. Like part of her was like, surely this is going to happen. I just have to show up to places, right?
Yeah. Because it worked once. She showed up once. You know.
Luck was on her side. So they allegedly, they think she began using drugs, and people have reported that Jimmy Monroe allegedly used drugs. So people believe that that's pretty accurate. He's a musician.
I want to point out that like drugs in Hollywood in that time was pretty common.
Absolutely.
You know, like they had pretty easy access to it. And sometimes it could be well hidden, and sometimes it could be less hidden.
Yeah, and it depends on the kinds of drugs, and like so it's not really clear. And again, it's all alleged. And he toured with his band in the mid 1930s, and basically she kind of went on the road with him because nothing was happening. Right?
I would travel. I get it.
Exactly. Now. But he also eventually was having an affair with Billy and left her for him. So that ended. And then her career she just really could not make anything happen in her career. So it all kind of happened at once. Later, it was reported that she married another man by the name of Robert Montgomery in 1939. And then a civil engineer by the name of Frank McKay in 1949. But these are unconfirmed because you kind of lose sight of her. She kind of disappeared for a while. And then she reemerged and had reinvented herself as a musician and a girl singer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But this time she looked very different. Like, because before, when she came back after Lena Horne, like kind of broke, she came back to give it a go. But a lot of people said that she was still beautiful and thin, but she didn't have that sheen that she had at 19. I'm like, yeah, because you're a grown ass woman now.
Nobody has the sheen they had when they were 19. Okay.
Exactly. And then when she reemerged this time, she was significantly heavier. Again, she's an older woman.
Yeah.
So she wasn't like the sexy ingenue siren that she once was. And I think that was actually smart of her to try and reinvent herself.
Totally.
If she had good advice, or if she would listen to good advice, she probably should have done that earlier. Like I said, Lena Horne decided, she was like, I got to make a living. So she started doing the cabaret thing pretty early on after she didn't wait like 10 years to get a movie role.
No, and that's why we all know who Lena Horne is, I think.
Exactly. So, because she's like, I got kids to feed. I got to do something. So, but when Nina Mae McKinney reemerged as a girl singer and a musician, the black gossip, like people, like they went in, they ridiculed her way, and she's still a beautiful woman. She's just heavier.
Yeah. This fucking world. Okay.
And it could be that she pissed off some people who really wanted to get a dig at her before, because before she might have been like, I'm too good to talk to y'all. Like, it's that kind of petty.
But like, listen, if all you can think of to make fun of someone is their body size, then like, I don't know, that feels a little like petty. You can do better. Like, you're kind of, I'm not calling you stupid, but I'm just saying.
I mean, but remember, like, what was it? Is it People? No, it's not People Magazine. I'm not going to put that on People Magazine. What's that, like, rag that shows, like, celebrities? They're just like us. And it's all about unflattering pictures of celebrities.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. So, it's on the when you're waiting to pay for your groceries. Yeah. It's there. It's always there. And it's like, look at a little possible cellulite. And you're like, you know what? I have so many things to think about today that has nothing to do with that. So, yeah.
Exactly. So, and she was still a beautiful woman. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of men to be like, Nina Mae McKinney, let me take it. You know, can I get your number? Hey, girl. But after that, I think she had a little bit of success with the new reinvention of the image.
Good.
But eventually that kind of petered out as well. And a lot of people think because she began drinking, allegedly. So with the drug use and the drinking, I think it's like you're dying of a broken heart, basically. Like, dreams unfulfilled, and like, it's devastating. And I think people who have not ever experienced that don't quite understand the toll it takes on you.
Yeah.
And so, but she kind of like just faded away from the papers and the entertainment gossip and all of that stuff. And she, on May 30th, 1967, she passed away from a heart attack at the age of 54.
Oh my God.
There wasn't much fanfare in the newspapers that you would think that would warrant. I mean, she had been like a leading lady. She had this role that's more than a lot of people get. And she had been thought of as like a star, not just in Black Hollywood, but in Hollywood for a short period of time, even if the racism of Hollywood really prevented her from really reaching her full potential. But, by 1967, she didn't get much. Her passing didn't get much mention. She left no known survivors, so no children. But in 1978, she was inducted into the Black Filmmakers Hall of Fame.
About time.
Right. And I think a lot of people still, if I'm ever in the future, she's the kind of person I'd be like, she needs a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
Because she was a trailblazer, even if it didn't really get to where it should. Her career didn't really get where it should have gone. And also I'm going to leave you on this note, a hopeful note, not too sad. King Vidor himself, and he wrote in his memoirs, he wrote of Nina Mae McKinney, quote, "It took no great effort to bring her talent out. She had it. Whatever you wanted, whatever you visualize, she could do it," end quote.
Wow. That's why she deserves a star, because she should have been next level famous.
Exactly. I mean, Nina Mae McKinney, when you look her up, you're like, oh my God, this woman is so like beautiful. Because it's all about, right? It's all about talent, but it's also about opportunities. But we see it today. Like, actresses, particularly actresses of color, they just don't get the vehicle to show what they can do,
So there's GinaDavis.org. I think that's what it's called. Look it up. We follow them on social media, and they are constantly looking for actual numbers. Geena Davis is amazing, like in terms of inequality with men and women,
she is.
And how many words and they speak versus, and so she was like, let me get data. Let me just get the data. We don't have to go his and her, argue. There's nothing to argue about when you have data. So what her group does too is they have data on how much representation minorities get. And it's not good. And it's data driven. Like, you can look this up. They've done the work, and it's still, as you said, not balanced at all.
Not balanced at all.
And because I think after 2020, people are like, well, we fixed it. And I'm like, we're here to be like, no.
I think white people think that because they're like, it's so hard. Like, this racism stuff is icky. I'm like, try living it. Like, it's icky it's even ickier for us. Trust me. Like,
did I tell you what a white ex-friend of mine said to me?
Operative word being ex-friend, huh?
Mm-hmm. We were on the phone. It was during the pandemic, like FaceTime. And she said, I don't want to lose my white privilege. And I think I literally said, I have to go.
Oh, she said the quiet part out loud, just like, yes. Wow. She ain't wrong.
No, I'm sure a lot of that's the problem, right? But she said the words, like she formed the words in her mouth and then put air and vocal cords behind them.
Well, I have a question. Did she said, I don't want to lose my white privilege? Like, I know that's wrong. Or did she was like, I don't want to lose my white privilege? How did she say it?
I'm going to go with number two.
Oh,
Number two. And I was like, I don't know, maybe be more talented. I don't know what to tell you. Which is what I wish I said. I wish I said that because it's not like we're going to stay friends. Okay. Right?
Yeah, after that, you're just like, it's a wrap, buddy.
And she wasn't like my best friend. You know, it was like it was someone I knew. But like
at least she admits it, because so many white people would be like, there's no privilege in being white. I'm just like you can't even.
It must be nice to have so much privilege that you don't even notice.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I think about it all the time. Like, let's say some modern actors and actresses, right? Like, I think about particularly the actors. I think about, like, let's say Lupita, right? Yeah. Lupita's won an Oscar. Yeah, she's talented, but you don't often see her in big budget. And she's been in one of the biggest movies of all time, Black Panther. She was a lead in that. She was in Us, one of the biggest horror movies of all time. And if Lupita was white, Lupita would work all the time. If Keke Palmer was white, she would work all the time. Even Zendaya, who works a lot, she don't work nearly as much as her white counterparts.
And that's the thing that people that I think that is the really good point, is that because you have white people pointing all those actresses out and saying, what about all those actresses? And you're like, yes. However, first of all, there's an argument while they're still working, but the problem is that they aren't seen as the star that can do all the things.
Yeah, and also I would ask people to say, yeah, they're working, but how much are they making? Are they making what their white counterparts are making? Like,
the answer is no.
The answer is no. Like,
you're welcome.
I mean, even white women are still struggling to get equal pay, right?
Yeah.
So those who manage to get, it's only a few who manage to get it. And then that probably goes away. I still can't get over the Michelle Williams, Mark Wahlberg thing. I was just like, Michelle Williams is an immensely talented actress who's been nominated like 2 or 3 times for an Oscar.
Let me tell you how much money that girl makes for these big studios. How much money she makes for them. It's like billions. Probably. And throughout her career.
She was on a film with a guy who's never been nominated for an Oscar, and she was making scale, and he was making like 2 million, like 200,000% more than her. I was just like, so if they're doing that to Michelle Williams, imagine what they're doing to Lupita. Like they might be offering her stuff that's either offensive or just not up to the caliber of her as a star, as an Oscar winner. Right. And then when she does find something, maybe it's not the salary that she deserves. That's why I heard that she's producing a lot of her stuff. But again, even when you're producing your own stuff, you got to get people who are willing to go into business with you.
Yeah, you got to get producers who will help fund it, who will believe in you and your power. And this country is still really bad at that.
Yeah, I think of like I said, Keke Palmer, Zendaya. I think of what's the young lady that was in Beale Street, If Beale Street Could Talk. I think of her. Her name is also Keke something. Like there's all this. There's this new girl who's actually finally getting some buzz, even though she was nominated for an Oscar for Judas and the Black Messiah. Fishback, Dominique Fishback. She just starred in Swarm.
Oh,
this girl, I don't know if you've seen Swarm. No. This girl is so immensely talented. They should be knocking down her door to give her opportunities. But I bet.
And I think what you said really kind of hits it home for me is probably they are giving her opportunities, but are they giving her opportunities that are really worthy of her? Because, like, you don't necessarily, like, your worth, and they should know their worth.
It's like if your salary, you deserve $2 to $5 million a movie, and they're coming to you with $1 million or 750,000.
Yeah. And it's like, I understand. Look, listen, what I would kill for 750,000. I wouldn't kill. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That is a lot of money. But like, it's not any different than when you have a corporate job and you are either getting 100,000 a year or 150,000 a year, right? Both of those numbers are more. I live in the state of California. It's real expensive here. But if you're like going to be a, like that is like a high level corporate job number. Let's say you're then a teacher. Then it's like, are you making 50,000 a year or 75,000 a year? Right? It's all relative.
Yeah, it's all relative.
Right, to what it is you do.
And it's like,
so if you're starring in movies, those numbers are high.
Again, like Michelle Williams was on the same movie making Scale, which probably came out to, let's say it came out to 100,000, right? 150,000. Yeah. Her co-star was making $2 million.
Yep. Yeah. That's not cool. It's just, like, it's not cool. That's like the best way to put it.
Because they sold it to her that like, oh, it's an independent film. There isn't a lot in the budget, da-da-da. And she's thinking, oh, I want to do this. But she's thinking everybody's getting paid like what she's getting paid.
So this like the question now women have to say, I'd like to know what the other salary is. Everyone taking this pay cut, and I would like to see some documents.
Oh, that's a whole nother thing that we will get into another day.
Okay, probably not today. It's in our next podcast. We have so many ideas, Lavetta.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what they come here for. I mean, yes. For our deep insight and for us to laugh at people and ourselves.
Yeah. But
I mean, that's Nina Mae McKinney for me. And I just think
love her.
It's important for people to hear her, to know her story. Again, she's a person that deserves a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
100%.
Hopefully someone will get her that, get her done. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us for another episode of Notorious Women Podcast. Remember to follow us on all the things, to share our podcast with your friends and family, to big us up, as they say. Like, tell everybody about us. Give us a 5-star review in the iTunes store. 5 stars, nothing less than 5 stars.
You don't need to do anything less than 5 stars.
Exactly.
5 whole stars. Yay.
5 whole stars. And also you can become a patron and support our show at patreon.com/notoriouswomen. That's patreon.com/notoriouswomen. And Miriam will tell you where else you can.
Yes. So we have a Gmail. If you want to email us, it's notoriouswmpod@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram. It's so easy. Notorious Women Podcast. Come find us there. We have so much fun. I put a lot of like funny stuff, but also some like, sometimes we trigger white men. Come join in the fun. But it's a fun place to hang. You can also DM us there as well. And that is that.
Yeah, guys. So we will see you guys next week. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for all the love. We really appreciate you guys.
Yes, we do.
And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.